It's okay. We have enough countdowns, so we should be good. All right, go ahead.
All right. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Audio Nerds. I'm one of your hosts, Fable, or you can call me Nick, here with my good friend Divide Music, or Alex. Say what up.
What up?
Today we're going to be talking about our 5 favorite video games of all time. Really exciting stuff here. Kind of a different direction from the last podcast, but I'm really excited to talk about this. We might go on a little bit more than our top 5, add a couple of honorable mentions and stuff like that, but for the most part, we're just going to be talking about our top 5 video games, and I think, I think that we could start it off with Divide. We're going to be going back to front, number 5 to number 1.
Right.
And we're going to try and toss it back and forth between us, not just going 5 to 1. But I'd love to start it off with you. What's your number 5?
Well, let's see. My number 5, which I think will be a surprise to most, is, and some people pronounce this differently, but Deus Ex Human Revolution is my number 5.
Ooh, okay. I think we did actually kind of touch on this in a call at one point, a FaceTime call, and I had told you that I actually don't know this video game. And that hasn't changed.
Yeah, you still don't know the game. It's funny. It's a game that came out in 2011, I believe. And I think I originally played it on 360, maybe.
Oh, wow.
I'm pretty sure if it was 2011, it would have to be. But then I have replayed it multiple times on PC. And I know one of like the guidelines that we had for making this list was not necessarily like just a game that's just one-time play amazing, but something that you come back to over the years. And I know for both of us, that's our list, is like games that we have played so many times.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, that game is just one that has stuck with me for so long. I wasn't the biggest fan of Mankind Divided, but Human Revolution. I should tell you, that was the one that came out after it.
Okay.
It was the sequel to that. And yeah, I don't know, Human Revolution, man, it's just so good. And as I had mentioned before, and for anyone that doesn't know, it kind of takes place in the future where there's this divide between between humans and augmented humans. So humans that will have limbs and such be replaced with technology. And there's like this political thing about it where there's obviously like the purists and then like the future thinking people, so it's but it deals with that, and you're essentially like a security guard, gun for hire guy that has some stuff happen, and it kind of plays off similar to a lot of like, I think I told you, like the Far Cry games, stuff like that. Like, not Far Cry, Fallout.
Oh, right.
The Fallout games where you make decisions and it affects the end of the game and all that kind of stuff, and you upgrade your guy and do all that. But yeah, I would say that is definitely my number 5. And I'm so curious because I don't know what your number 5 is. So what is your number 5?
Okay. I will tell you what my number 5 is, but first I have to ask you one question.
Okay.
What would you do with cyber limbs? Like, let's say you had like cyber legs and you could run as fast as Usain Bolt, or you could jump as high. I don't know if you could jump like a frog. Like, a frog can jump like like, can you imagine how crazy that would be? I'm sorry, I've always thought about this.
No, dude, I mean, playing the game has allowed me to experience it in a virtual way. How would I use those things? Is that your question? I mean, I would use them to be better at everything. I don't know. I would want to run like super fast and be able to just, I think jumping would be huge.
It'd be so cool.
Because something about jumping, man. If I could jump from like one building to the next without it even phasing me, like that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that'd be sweet. You could become Divide Music, the superhero. Like,
why not?
Quit doing anime songs, just full-time crime fighting. The whole
just jumping.
Yeah, Elon Musk make this happen. That'd be pretty sweet. I think I wouldn't give up my regular limbs, but it'd be pretty sweet to be able to jump. I don't know why I'm going down this road right
No,
now, but
this is important because that follows another question that would be if you were able to get these abilities, would you be willing to swap out your limbs for
oh
like
wow.
carbon fiber futuristic nano bots?
I don't know if I could do that. Like a part of me wants to say yes. Like I think like if it had been studied for years and I knew it was safe, maybe.
Oh yeah, like you have nothing to worry about.
Okay. Well,
You're like, I don't know, man.
that's
This
a
is
hard
getting
question. I
intense.
don't know. I feel like some sort of like I feel like a serious sense of attachment to my to my limbs because I've always had they've been my
Been around for a while. Yeah.
I don't know, man. That's a tough question. I'd say probably no. I don't think I would. Would you?
I think I think if I was a teenager or if I was single and like lived on my own and had nothing to lose. But I have to think about obviously like my wife. She wouldn't want my legs to be made out of carbon fiber and nanobots.
Hey, babe. After work, I swung by the robotics facility and just wanted to let you know I can jump.
I'm starting
5
out with
stories.
one. I'm just starting out with one, one leg. I want to see how far that'll take me, and I might get the other one, but I wanted to get your approval first. That is actually how it would happen too.
You just pogo hop on
My
top
God.
of your house, 3 stories high.
A
Okay.
superhero that jumps off on one leg only. So
I'm sorry
awesome.
because I haven't heard of this game. This is what I'm imagining in my head, so I had to. Sorry. Okay, the detour. All right, I gotta bring it back. My number 5.
All right, you're number 5.
Okay, my number 5 is actually a series that is super unfamiliar to the world. They've probably never heard of it. It's not very popular. It's the Fallout series. Um,
Oh,
yeah, it's super niche. I'm just, no,
yeah, I've never heard of it.
okay, so I'm breaking the rules with this one a little bit. Um, I did a tie, I did a 3-way tie, and I only did it because they're the same style games and they're like consecutively like right in a row, and I just
Yeah.
enjoyed each one the same amount pretty much. Which my list would be Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, and Fallout 4. I thought like all 3 of those games were for some reason they just stuck with me over the years. I kept playing them, and I feel like Fallout, Bethesda does some stuff with the Fallout series that's kind of like half done sometimes, and I'm kind of like, I'm kind of critical of the games because they don't feel finished in a lot of ways, but in a lot of other ways, the story and the world just gets me, and I always come back to it. I mean, Fallout 4 alone, I've logged so many hours. I don't know the exact number, but I've logged so
Yeah.
many hours into that game because they added the ability to build your own like fort, and you can just set up like kind of a community, and I just love all 3 of these games. And I know like obviously that was a joke at the beginning. Like most of the world is familiar with Fallout, so I'm sure like a lot of people would agree with me that I mean I feel like they kind of like Skyrim. They kind of set the bar in a lot of ways for those types of games.
Oh yeah. Oh, 100%. I almost feel like them being unfinished is almost part of their charm. Now I'm gonna say 76 obviously is not a part of that at all because that, as far as I understand it, that wasn't finished even halfway finished. But the times that I have played Fallout 3 and 4, it's almost part of its charm that it's kind of buggy.
Yeah.
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 And like I see those videos online where people do like really funny stuff and it's entertaining, but even Skyrim had its buggy moments. I mean, how many videos have you seen someone riding up the literal side like of a vertical mountain on their horse?
Oh yeah.
And it's just awesome.
Oh yeah. I mean, to make the I feel like to make the game work, because like Skyrim doesn't look like the best game now, but when you went back in time and you were when Skyrim
Oh.
first released, like it was obviously just so groundbreaking and stuff. So I feel like they kind of have to like just play with new ideas and make things that don't work because they're in so many ways trying to break walls down and trying to make things work. So it's never actually that like a big enough problem to make the game not as fun for me. Like
Yeah, it's not like a deal breaker by any means.
Yeah.
I've always enjoyed Skyrim. I mean, now, dare I say, I'm sure some people would be upset to hear this. I think Skyrim is a little dated now, but it is definitely still a great game. Like
Right.
I have logged many hours into that game. But yeah, I mean, the scope of even like Oblivion,
Oh,
the
yeah.
scope of what they add to those games is just, you can't get too upset when you pay $60 for a game that gives you over 200 hours of gameplay, and like you can jump off the top of a mountain and just roll down it and then just stand up at the end. Like it's part of its charm.
It's so true. And the DLCs are actually just as big, you know. I went back and played the
Oh yeah.
yeah, like I'll agree. I mean, I've tried to go back and play Skyrim in recent times, and it's not easy because, you know, it is so dated. And so I totally understand where you're coming from with that. But the DLCs that they added are so packed full of content. And they're
Mm.
so polished, and just like it's not like, you know, oh, you get one extra little mission. It's like, no, they'll put like a whole new part of the map, you know, down, and there's tons of just side quests and so much stuff that I really wish like more games, you know, and this is something that we're going to talk about in a later podcast, but I really wish games would focus on having a lot of really well done polished content at the beginning, because I think it's so important. And
It's
they really
sad
do
that it's
that.
like a lost thing now.
Yeah.
Like you almost half expect games to not be finished when you get them, and there have to be a million patches. But
Yeah.
I think the only thing probably in the last I guess 5-10 years that's even come close to Skyrim would probably be The Witcher 3, which I have played. I have not beaten that game or come close to it, but that is another game I know that has a ton of well, it has a few DLC packs, but there's so much more content, and it's so popular. Like I know the names like Blood and Wine and stuff. Like it's just crazy. But that's probably the only thing that's even come close to comparing to Skyrim, because
Right.
Skyrim still stands on its own so well,
Yeah,
and
and
that's why they keep re-releasing it.
right on every console and platform that can be done. It's so crazy. I I've heard that the way, you know, and The Witcher 3 is something I haven't played myself. I've only played the very beginning, and I've heard that it's the same. It's like they get heavily compared, but I've heard a lot of people say that they actually enjoy it more um than they
Hmm.
enjoy Skyrim. And for me, I got kind of overwhelmed by how much was in the game right off the bat. You know, they're like
Same.
side swipe, parry, blah 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 blah, two different kinds of swords for two different kinds of monsters, and I think that
Hmm.
stuff is amazing. Like I get why they're adding so much like depth to the game. But I just at the time wasn't willing to take in that much. I was already, you know, doing a lot with
Yeah,
other stuff, and, you know, working a lot, and I'm like, I just don't want this heavy of a game right now. I just want something simple.
dude. I feel exactly the same way. I have so much respect for The Witcher 3, and even like The Witcher 2, and even like the whole franchise. And it does pull directly from the books, I know. So they're really paying homage to the books and like doing such a good job. But the times I've tried playing it, yeah, dude, it's tough because there you have to learn. Dude, there's even like Gwent. There's a whole card game in the
It's
game.
so
that-
crazy. I it's insane to think about. See, that's like that's what I want deep down, but
yeah,
it's just like,
the time though.
yeah, the time. It's just a lot to invest. It feels like World of Warcraft. Like I tried to get into that. Wow, we're really going down the road. I'm sorry. If if like I really wanted to get into World of Warcraft at one point in my life, and I got involved, and I was just like, this is too much. I can't, like, I'm
Yeah.
trying to do YouTube, I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to do that, and I just can't. Like, this is a perfect game. I just don't have the time to log.
It's like you could still play it, but it does require a lot of attention.
Yeah.
And and you want, and there's a part of you that knows that, and you want to give it that attention, but you just can't. And that's how I feel, and that's why a lot of the games I play now are just pretty linear, big story, like still like great story games or multiplayer stuff, but like, yeah, I can't invest more than maybe 20 to 30 hours in a game, you know.
Yeah.
So I just don't have the time anymore. But anyways, that's a good number 5 though. Fallout. The Fallout 3, 4, and what was it, Vegas?
In New Vegas, yeah.
New Vegas. Very nice. Very nice.
I will say,
Well,
Fallout 3's ending is complete shit, but that's the best game out of them all. It would be the undisputed number one for me if the ending didn't suck so bad. And
yeah.
that's my final note. But sorry, I think you were trying to move on to number 4, and we probably should. So, what's your number 4?
My number 4 is a franchise as well. Specifically 2 and 4, but the Uncharted franchise.
Oh wow, okay, yeah. Oh yeah.
I had to have something from Naughty Dog on here. And the Uncharted games. I mean, 1, 2, 3, and 4 are all great, but I think most fans of the series would agree that 2 and 4 are just remarkable. They're so, so good. I mean, I know 4 didn't come out that long ago, but 2 coming out back in, I think, like 2011
Yeah.
or 12, maybe. I don't know. It was maybe even 10. I honestly don't remember now, but it still holds up. They're such well-made story games, and you'll find more or less with my entire list I have pretty much just story games. But Naughty Dog with the Uncharted franchise is just, it's just next level. I mean, I have no complaints about those games. So yeah, that would definitely be my number 4, which, and you haven't played those, right?
No, once again, like another game series here that, because like I obviously haven't played nearly as many story games as you have. Period. You know, I've been so heavily
Right.
invested in multiplayer competitive, esports titles that like I just haven't logged nearly as many hours into story mode games. But that's another series that I always get recommended by everybody, and everybody always says the same thing, which is that these games are just perfect. They're like a movie. Um,
Yeah.
you
Oh, yeah.
so I mean, that's another series that I need to visit myself for sure.
Yeah. Dude, it's like a cinematic adventure. It's like you're playing a movie. Like, it's just so well done. And I'm sure anyone that's played them would would agree. I can't imagine anyone would have an issue with, like, there are people obviously that probably don't like them for some reason, if it's like the mechanics of some kind, because I know the shooting mechanics used to be pretty bad, especially in 1,
Mm.
but they fixed it in 2. And then from then on it was more or less polished after that. But yeah, um definitely play those games if you get a chance, of
Oh yeah.
course. It's no Witcher 3 situation where you're gonna have to learn how to use multiple weapons, and well, multiple weapons maybe, but they all use a trigger, so you don't have to worry about having to use a steel sword versus a silver sword. But anyways, so what's your number 4?
Uh, man, I feel so boring after. Uh, my number 4 is another Bethesda game. It's Skyrim.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
I'm so basic. Like my story mode games, like that I've gone through in life, are like Zelda, Skyrim, Fallout. Like everybody's
They're
played
all
these games,
huge
but
though. There's a reason though, like that's a great number 4.
dude, that's so true. And I do think Skyrim's undisputedly one of the greatest games of all time. It's just it's got a little bit of something for everybody. It broke through so many barriers. The world is so great. I mean, just walking around in Skyrim, even nowadays, I downloaded it on my PC and I'm walking around in 4K on this ultra wide monitor, and I'm just thinking like this world, like the graphics aren't top notch right now because it's so old, but the world that they created is so good, and I love the
Yeah.
races. Khajiit for life. Um,
Kashi, nice, nice.
yeah. I don't know. There's just something about that game that really understands me, and I've played it probably 6 or 7 times through, and uh, there's a different way to go every time you play it. You can go the Dark Brotherhood. You can go the
I was
Thieves
about to
Guild.
say
Oh,
Dark
dude.
Brotherhood, dude. I remember, sorry, quick side note, not to interrupt, but when we were in high school and we were playing Oblivion, and I never really got into it, and you were like, dude, you got to play and you got to do the Dark Brotherhood. And that is when everything changed. And the Dark Brotherhood is equally as amazing in Skyrim. It's just so, so good. They could make a whole game on that alone. But
They might.
anyways,
They might do it. Honestly, it was so good, and the Thieves Guild too, and just the Champions Guild.
mm,
Oh man! And there's even like DLCs now, where like the vampires versus the humans. It's crazy.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah,
Yep.
so good. That I will tell you now that that is not on my list, but that is definitely an honorable mention for me, because that was a huge part of my gaming life too. Um,
Yeah. I
but all right,
can't really say anything more about it. It's one of my favorite games, and I there's not really much I could say that people don't already know about that game. It's so good.
right. I mean, yeah, it's arguably one of the biggest games in the world, so it's hard to. And we already kind of touched on it a bit ago, talking about how good it was. But okay, I guess I'll move on to number 3 then. So my number 3 is another franchise, but I'll specifically say Ocarina of Time and
Woo!
Twilight Princess. Do I even need to say the franchise? There's
Isn't
really no
that
reason.
like isn't that
I
like
feel like I've heard of
Mega
these
Man?
before. Yeah, dude, Mega Man, the Twilight Princess. It's I honestly, I don't have I don't have to explain it. I think most people can just be like, okay, that makes sense. Maybe the only explanation I could give is why Ocarina and why Twilight Princess, but I almost don't think you really need an explanation because I think that there's so many good Zelda games that everyone has their favorites. Like I know your favorites aren't the same as mine.
Right.
Um,
But Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess are 100% in my honorable mentions. Like those games
oh yeah,
are I mean they're pretty perfect. There's nothing I could really say about them that I didn't like. You know, the music in Ocarina of Time alone is
oh
timeless.
dude, we're talking about Skyrim. Doesn't look great anymore, and it's like, hold on a second. I could still play Ocarina of Time and be so happy
Oh
because
yeah.
the game is just so good. I guess I will give one little funny side note to this choice, and Zelda Twilight Princess being one of them, is that I actually didn't play Twilight Princess until about 4 years ago, maybe. And I tried playing it when I was younger on GameCube when it first came out, and I didn't get it. It bothered me with the dog thing. Like I just didn't understand, and it was so different, and I didn't realize at the time how amazing that whole ability that they added made the game. Like it added a whole new fun mechanic to the whole thing, and it was just so much fun. So anyways, I used to say that was my least favorite one, and now it is actually one of my favorite games
Oh
ever made.
wow. Yeah. I mean it is kind of weird at first. It's hard to take in. It's like the idea of Link turning into a wolf honestly sounds kind of lame when you first hear
Yeah.
it. It's like I don't know. I didn't think that would be a good thing. I remember thinking,
Well, it's like
that's
why? Like
yeah,
why is this necessary? But obviously when you play the game you know why. But
yeah.
but yeah, it just didn't make sense from the previous ones. But um yeah, anyways, those are my two favorite Zelda games definitely, and for my number 3 spot. So what's your number 3 spot?
My number 3 spot is Call of Duty Black Ops 2. I
Oh,
yeah.
my goodness. What a good one.
it's
Oh man.
it's so good. Like okay, and I'm not going to give too much away, but this is the only other game that I believe besides Halo 3 that released a full game in the last 2
Yeah.
decades. Full.
Mm.
Like I'm talking like good story mode. Zombies is awesome. There's an amazing rank system called League Play. The Pick 10
Mhm.
system is introduced to Call of Duty and it's revolutionary and it works so much better than all the other pick systems. The kill streaks weren't overpowered. The TTK was longer, and it was harder to shoot. You know, that's one of my main complaints with Call of Duty in general is that it's always kind of been forgive me for anybody who disagrees here, but it's always been like the B list esport because it's easy to kill people. TTK is super low. It makes
For the people that don't know, including myself, what the heck is TTK?
time to
Time to
kill. I'm
time to
sorry.
kill.
I'm so sorry. So
Oh.
time to kill.
No, no, no.
So
Okay.
you know how in Call of Duty it's obviously very easy to aim. It's very magnetic. Like
Oh,
it's not
yeah.
hard to shoot somebody, right? Like how it is in Counter
Right.
Strike or Halo. Well,
Yeah.
not only is it easy to shoot somebody, it's also with some guns with the right perks, it takes 2 bullets. So
Right,
you know
right.
what that means is the skill gap is reduced because if I see you and you're not facing me, it is instant when I shoot you in the back and kill you. You have no time to react. You have
Mm.
absolutely no ability to turn around and outplay me, no matter how good you are, right? Which
Right. And
that's
and it takes all the competitiveness away at
it,
that point. You have no
exactly.
chance.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
essentially like that's what I mean. Like Black Ops 2 was different. The TTK was higher. It took a little bit longer to kill. Even there was a couple guns in the game like the 4 burst gun used to be able to 1 burst if you
Mm.
hit above the chest.
Wasn't that like the X something R?
Yeah.
I loved that gun.
Yeah,
That gun was
it
awesome.
was
It was
so
the
good.
something XJR or something like that. But yeah, I remember that gun for sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah, some really good the MSMC I think was the name of one of those submachine guns that was really fun to use. They had a lot of good stuff, but like for me competitively that game was actually just the best Call of Duty by miles cuz I mean, it worked. It was balanced plus the maps. I mean, the maps were great.
I was Yeah, the maps were I love that was probably the only Call of Duty game I ever played where when I played multiplayer, I never got frustrated with the maps ever. I always loved them. They were always great. And I'm sure that there may have been one or two, but like I never remember them. I always had such a great time playing that game. And zombies, like you said, I mean, I'm a huge zombies nut, and Transit,
Oh,
if there are any zombie fans out there, Transit, I put so many hours into Transit. How many times were you playing with friends and you're all jumping on the bus and someone closes the door on the last person and you're like, open the fucking door. You start like freaking
open the
out because
fucking
there's a bunch
door!
of
Yeah, dude, that was the best, dude. I loved that zombies shit, dude. And I don't know, man. I fuck with that game. Like it's just so good. Like and everybody I talk to too. Usually people like that game. There's like this new generation though that were introduced to Call of Duty and games with when the whole jetpacking and wall running thing kind of began, and that. So
yeah.
I think there's like a large demographic of the younger crowd that probably disagree with me, but um, yeah, Black Ops 2 just for all out of all the Call of Duties, it felt like it had the most, and it was all very good content, and I just love it.
Yeah. No, man, I just said yeah, no, but yeah, I agree 100%.
I
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that does it for my number 3 spot. Moving on to number 2 here. What do you got for me?
Ooh, okay. Another franchise I know you haven't played.
Oh no.
The Metal Gear franchise,
Oh my gosh.
specifically 1 and 4 are, well, now I will say 3 is incredible. And if there are any Metal Gear fans out there, I know 3 is actually most people's favorite. I have to say 1 because I remember as a kid playing it on PS1. It was like how Skyrim was for, I think, for a lot of people. It just was so revolutionary. Like there's a boss that you fight. Um, why am I blanking right now? Oh my gosh. What was his name?
I would totally help you out, but I don't know.
Oh my
I'm
god. Oh,
sorry.
Psycho Mantis. Psycho Mantis. Wow, that was,
There we
I'm
go.
telling you, it's like my second favorite game ever and I don't remember. So Psycho Mantis, dude, PS1. Imagine being like 8 years old and you're playing against a boss that like floats and he can use his mind to like telekinetically do things, right? And he can like read your thoughts and stuff, right? Now imagine this, you're 8 years old and he tells you in the game, put your controller down, and then he starts making it move, right?
Oh, whoa.
As a kid, you're like, oh my gosh. He's like moving it around. And then he starts telling you information about your saved games on your card.
What?
And like as an 8-year-old, I was like, oh my gosh, this is magic. How does he know this stuff? But it was just stuff like that I'll never forget. It was so, so cool. And um 4, Metal Gear 4 was almost like my Twilight Princess, where I was very turned off to it at first because it was just very different from the previous ones, set in more of a futuristic sense. And as it turned out, though, it's been years since I played it because I don't have a PS3 anymore. Um, I'm sure I could probably get it on PS now, but I don't have that. But either way, it's just one of those things that the Metal Gear franchise to me is it's just so near and dear to my heart. And sad to say though, Metal Gear 5 was not for me.
Oh.
Um, and I think it is similar to how a lot of people, once again, including me, felt with like Breath of the Wild. It's
Mm.
undeniably such a good game, but it was just too different for me.
Hmm.
Where the whole open world thing for Metal Gear, it just, and a big part of it was like you're building up your base and you're recruiting people and you're like taking zones and stuff, and it's stuff that I love in games, but for some reason I just didn't want it in a Metal Gear game, and I tried playing it multiple times and I just couldn't ever get into
Just
it,
wasn't your
sadly.
thing.
This wasn't my thing. But yeah, I will say that is definitely my number 2. So what
That's
is your
awesome. Once again, wish I could chime in on that one. I think I played Metal Gear Solid 1 for like the demo version when I had my PlayStation 1 because it was like free. And
Oh my gosh, did you used to get like the PlayStation like magazine or something
yes.
that came with like a disc?
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. It was
Yeah. Oh
okay.
yeah.
So yeah, I played that. I played the demo like tons of times, and it was really fun. But honestly, at the time, if I'm remembering things right, I don't think back then my mom like that was in a weird transitional period where it was just me and my mom living in an apartment, and she was like watching me while I played video games, and she was being super like hypercritical of the ones I was playing, and I don't think she allowed me to play Metal Gear Solid. So I did like I think that's one of the
It,
games I just kind
yeah.
of started off without like I wasn't allowed to play that. So and
It would make sense cuz I mean it is especially back then. I mean, it's a somewhat violent game. Like
Yeah.
you are more or less a guy that's killing people and choking people and doing all kinds of stuff and then hiding bodies. So it makes sense.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah.
But I wish I would have got to play it because I remember the demo being amazing, and I just never got to experience the full version. I probably would have been a diehard fan, but because I didn't start,
Oh,
then I just never kind of started. I was felt behind.
it is tough with those franchises that have been going on for so long to just try and get into them now, because obviously as a child, especially, like Ocarina of Time, going back to that, if I was trying to play that now, I would not appreciate it the same way that I do.
Right.
And so it totally makes sense. But I will say, as a last thing about that, just because I was thinking about it when you were talking about the demo, was that the beginning of the game, when you like come out of like a submarine pod looking thing and you're swimming underwater and you have like this mask on it, and you come up and he takes his mask off and he gets on this call, and it does the whole Metal Gear thing where it shows the little like radio call between you and like the general or whatever, and it always has like the bloop, bloop, bloop. And then you
Wait, what?
like have this
There's what?
yeah, bloop, bloop. And you have this little conversation, and I just won't forget, like it was so epic. And when you died in the game, every like doesn't matter what game it was, every time Snake, 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 and it goes like "Meow, dun 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 dun," and it's just so good. Anyways,
Sounds
I'm
awesome.
done. What's your number 2?
I love it.
It's amazing.
Oh. Dun, 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 dun.
Sorry, I couldn't stop laughing. I tried to get out the words, what is your number 2? But then I kept laughing. So what is your number 2?
My number 2, actually, going off what you said, actually is Breath of the Wild. Is Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, I just I've played that game. I'm on my sixth playthrough, which I've never done with a Zelda game.
Oh wow.
Ever in my life, and I just I feel like, okay, so Ocarina of Time was the most revolutionary Zelda for me.
Oh yeah.
It was like Link to the Past was my introduction, and then I beat Link to the Past. It was fantastic, one of my favorite games of all time. That's the first video game, quite literally, that I ever played. So I have a special place in my heart for A Link to the Past. But then I went back and played the original Zelda game after that. Then I've beaten everyone since. So once, obviously, Ocarina of Time came around, it was so revolutionary. And then Nintendo 64 was such a cool console back then, and everything was just so cool about it that it was hard for me to make this decision, because obviously they all have special places in my heart. Ocarina of Time has my favorite music out of all of them, and I think the story is amazing. But like when I think about just like, because I have recently tried to go back and play Ocarina of Time, and it's a phenomenal game. It's phenomenal. But as an adult, after I play through all these games, I'm just realizing, because like my first playthrough of Breath of the Wild, I didn't think it was on par. I thought the same thing I think a lot of people think. I thought this game is not Ocarina of Time. It's not Link to the Past. It's not Twilight Princess. This is not on that level, because the story didn't give me the same feelings initially that like Zelda should give me. It was like, where's my feeling that I got from these old games, from the story being so good and stuff. And in Breath of the Wild, you're kind of stumbling through. You're going through all these random, little what are they called again? Shrines. Getting the puzzles done and all this stuff. But like, there's so much different stuff that it kind of makes it not feel like a Zelda game. But then, the more that I played it, and the more that I just kind of explored the side quests and the worlds and the actual just the world itself, I kind of just fell in love with it in its own way. It's such like I don't know how to explain it. It's like the one other cool thing about Breath of the Wild that I love so much over other Zelda games and over other games that I've played in general is that the abilities that they added to the game, like the magnetism, the stopping time ability, all these abilities make it so that you can beat each dungeon and each shrine and each part of the game can be beaten several ways.
Right.
So
yeah,
it's like, as I keep going back and playing through the game, I'm beating it differently. Like I'm doing like certain things different than I did before, and I'm just like, whoa, that's so cool. How did I not understand that the first time? And I'm doing all this crazy stuff, but the world is what ultimately gets me about Breath of the Wild. I can't wait for part 2. And I guess I'm just a sucker for Zelda games in general. I love Ocarina of Time as well, as you mentioned. That could very well be here as a tie, you know. But I
Yeah.
already have one other tie that I'm not going to specify yet. So I was like, I can't do 3 ties.
Yeah. No, like I gotta give props to the game because I I didn't beat Breath of the Wild, though I literally got to the end. Like I did everything and then I had to go fight Ganon. And the only reason why I didn't was because I was told that he's like sadly really easy
Yeah.
compared to the other bosses. And so I was kind of like, well, I guess I'll just hold off and like keep enjoying the game. But then eventually I just kind of fell off and started playing other stuff. But um it's still a great game. Like it in many ways it's completely flawless. But I think with what you were saying at the beginning, not getting that feeling that you get when you play Zelda games typically in the past
Yeah.
is a little off-putting at first because it is so different. But once again, it's kind of like the Metal Gear Solid 5. There's nothing wrong with it, you know? Yeah, and I think that's probably why a lot of people really loved Metal Gear 5 that had never played Metal Gear games
Yeah.
before. And probably the same with Breath of the Wild is because it's so expansive and it's so great. And for a lot of people, it's probably more interesting because it's not nearly as linear as other games. And I think a lot of games now almost need to have some sort of open world element. So it
Right.
makes sense why they did that.
Right.
But yeah, still a great game. I mean, that's definitely an honorable mention for sure. For me, it's not one of my honorable mentions, but now that you're saying it, I'll say that's an honorable mention for sure.
Dude, I feel it. And to each their own,
Yeah.
you know. The Zelda games, I understand. Like even Wind Waker too. Oh my god.
Oh, Wind Waker.
I could
Love
talk
that
about
game.
Zelda for like ever, you know. I just love all the Zelda games. So like I don't know, you know.
Yeah.
I guess we could have done an episode
man.
on Zelda alone probably.
We could, for sure. I won't go off on another tangent, but Wind Waker was another game that
Yeah.
to this day still holds up because of the shell what do they call it? Shell shaded? Shell shaded?
Oh
Cell
yeah,
shaded?
I never knew how to pronounce or I never even knew what that was called. The graphic.
It's cell or shell. I can't remember, and someone's gonna let me know. I'm sure in the comments. But yeah, it's the graphic style. I know a lot of people had issues with, but I always loved it. I always thought it was actually very fitting for Zelda, and it worked really well, and I never had a problem with it. The only thing I hated about that game, and the only reason why I haven't beaten it so many times, is because I always got to the same spot, and I would get sick and tired of trying to find all the Triforce pieces, because fuck that. I do not want to do that. I don't want to go around on my boat that talks to me and try and find Triforce pieces all day. But that was my only gripe with that game. But anyways, great number 2.
It is time. Drum roll.
It is time.
Wait. How did you...
What was that?
That was my Metal Gear Solid thing.
I was going to say, I can't do a drum roll. Hold on. All right. Okay. My drum roll to my number 1 is Spider-Man PS4.
Ooh, Spider-Man PS4. Ding, 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 ding.
Anyone that knows me personally will know that Spider-Man has been a huge part of my life.
Facts.
As long as I can remember.
Facts.
I have loved Spider-Man since when I lived in England when I was really young, I remember for like Christmas and birthdays, I would get Spider-Man stuff. I remember getting the Spider-Man wrist thing that you put the silly string in and you could shoot the silly string out of your wrist.
Oh, yeah.
And it looked like, oh my gosh, anything with Spider-Man, like the series in like the 90s, the Spider-Man series, all that stuff. So of course, when this game came out, I was already freaking out. And what's funny is I didn't have my PS4 at that point because I actually sold it like a year before. And that was actually around the time I was playing, or not playing, sorry. That's around the time when I started my YouTube stuff. I wasn't really playing games that much because I didn't have a lot of time. And I also had a PC. So anytime I was playing games, it was on my PC. So when I saw this game was coming out, though, you better believe I had to figure out a way to get a PS4 again.
Oh, I remember this.
Oh man, this was a big deal to me. I had to get one, and so should I tell the funny story of how I got one?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Do you remember what? I'm
talking about? Had to do with the guy at work.
It did have to do with the guy at work.
The guy at work, and you were trying to sling something or trade something. How exactly did you get that thing?
Well, okay, so funny mention. When Nick and I went to RTX in 2018, we were staying at Rocket Gaming's house. And
Wait a minute.
yeah.
I remember. Oh, I do remember. Oh, you got an Xbox.
Oh, hey, whoa, man, I haven't gone there yet. This is a little buildup. But yes, I did get an Xbox. I got an Xbox One, and it was really funny. One night I was well, I guess we all were hanging out.
Yeah.
Now that I'm thinking about it, we were all there. So it was you, me, Vinny, and Russell. And Russell was a little socially impaired because it was late in the evening. I think we had gone out, and so
Oh, yeah,
he
he
was
was wasted.
he was a little silly.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we get drunk every time we're there. It's no secret. We were blasted.
It's no
I remember that.
secret. Yeah. What's funny though is I don't think I was. I think I was actually fairly because I don't really drink that much, but whenever we're around them, somehow drinks are had.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's contagious.
you-
Russell just
you
makes me want to go hard in the paint. You know, he just smiles at me and it's enough. I'm like, all right, where's the buzz ball, dude? Let's go, you know?
You can't hang out with him and him not offer you a drink at some point. And I remember that night I had opened up like a closet door in the place they were staying in, and there was like 4 Xboxes, 2 Switches. There was like all these consoles, and I was joking. I was like, "Can I have one of these?" And he was like, "What do you want?" And I was like, "Can I have the Switch?" Because I remember at that point I thought I lost my Switch. And
Oh,
yeah,
it was the Switch.
originally I asked for the Switch, and he's like, "Oh, yeah, I don't even play that thing. I don't even. Yeah, you can take it. I don't care. You can have it." And I was like, "Sweet. Can I have the games too then?" "Yeah, I don't care." And then like 5 minutes later, he's like, "No, I don't want you taking that. Actually, I want that." I'm like, "Why? You're never gonna play it." He's like, "I want to keep it." He's like, "Take something else." I was like, can I have an Xbox then?" And I was more or less kidding. I didn't because he was obviously drunk, so I didn't think he was being serious. And he's like, "Yeah, I don't care. Just pick one. Just take one. I don't care. I don't care." And I was like, "All right." So I took the Xbox out of the closet, and I had just left it in the living room where you and I were sleeping.
Oh, yeah, on the blow up, the air mattress, right?
I think I had the couch, and you had the
Oh, that's
the
right.
air mattress because air mattresses don't agree with my massive size. But anyways, when we were getting ready to leave, I remember I was packing up and I said to him, I was like, "You weren't being serious." He's like, "Yeah, dude, I don't want it. Take it." I was like, "No, I'm not going to take it. You're messing with me." And he's like, "No, seriously, just I already have another one. It's an older one anyways." And I'm like, "All right." So anyways, I took it and I played it like twice
Yep.
and didn't really ever mess with it. And then when the whole Spider-Man thing was going on and it was coming out in like I think a month or two, there was a guy at my work named Max that had a PS4 and a PS4 Pro. And
Shout
so
out,
I
Max.
asked him, I was like, shout out to Max. And so I asked him, I was like, "You don't need both of those, do you?" And he's
Look
super
at you
nice guy.
swindling, dude. You sound like Littlefinger from Game of Thrones, dude. You just come in and you're like, "Hey, got some cool shit you got there, dude."
Oh my gosh, the best comparison I could think of actually, because I am one of the many few, I was about to say many people, but that's not true. Many few, if that makes any sense, that haven't seen Game of Thrones. But I was going to say that episode of The Office where Dwight takes a thumbtack and he's able to trade up to a telescope,
Oh, yeah.
and then
yeah.
Jim able to give him the legumes, and he, anyways, that's all. But so I walk up to Max and I ask him, and he's like, "Yeah, I have a Pro and a PS4," and I had asked him, I said, "Well, the Pro. What would you want to hold on to the Pro? Like, what's the deal with the Pro?" And he said, "Well, if I was gonna get rid of one of them, I'd probably just get rid of the regular PS4." And so when I was talking to him, I ended up coming up with an idea that I could give him the Xbox and I could give him a 4 terabyte hard drive. So, and then the other thing was actually singing lessons because he really wanted singing lessons.
Wait, did you...
What?
Yo, Max wanted to be the fucking next Mariah Carey or what?
He had the range for it. That guy actually could get so high. It was ridiculous. Like, he'd be joking around, but he could sing like so high. But yeah,
I'm sorry.
pretty much.
All I'm trying to say is that's a very odd thing to ask for. It's something that typically when you're dealing, with stuff, it's not like, hey, can I have singing lessons? I just think that's so interesting. I love it. I
Yeah,
actually love it.
you're trying to get a console, and then you throw in singing lessons. It's well, he obviously he knew about my channel and everything like that, and knew that I sang, and he's always wanted to sing, and he's always wanted to get better and all this stuff. And I said, I mean, I can't necessarily, I mean, I can't give lessons because I've never done it before. I just sing, but I can try and help you out, And so there's a few times where I just gave him some tips. But the funny thing was is that I was able to understand that it wasn't the fact that he wanted the PS4 Pro instead of the PS4 because it was newer. It was because of the hard drive size. That's the only reason why. And that's how the 4 terabyte hard drive came into it. So I was like, oh, well, why don't I give you a hard drive? So that doesn't matter. You'll have like 4 times as much data as your Pro, because the Pro comes with, I think, a terabyte, and the original comes with 500.
Huh.
And so anyways, that's kind of how that came about. And back to the whole point of this was Spider-Man came out, and I have played Spider-Man so many times all the way through. I have it is insane. And it wasn't until recently that I realized, I was like, I think this is my favorite game ever made, because I don't think I've ever played a game or I've beaten it and I just started over again. And I just started over again. And sometimes Leanna would come home, my wife, and I would just be swinging around the city, not doing anything. And I would have on my phone, I would have Spider-Man scenes okay, one time she came home, I had the game paused and I was watching a scene from Spider-Man 2 on my phone. Like the obsession is pretty severe.
I didn't realize how deep this went.
Oh yeah.
There's layers to
man.
this. There's layers and layers. I've always known you're a Spider-Man fanatic. I mean, I've always known that for as long as we've known each other, but I didn't realize you were a Spider-Man fanatic.
Oh, I love Spider-Man. When I saw that you could get the the 90s series on Amazon, you had to buy it, but when I saw that, you better believe I bought them and I watched them all, because that was only like a year ago, because I love Spider-Man. I don't know what it is. And if my coworker Glenn, who is not listening to this, but if he is, he can attest as well, because sometimes at work it would be so slow and so boring that I would be walking around the lab, and I would, because I worked as a lab tech, I'd be walking around the lab and I would just be throwing up Spider-Man web slinging things, and I would just be like an absolute dork and just be walking around putting my hands up and pretending like I was swinging around the lab because I was that bored.
Oh, dude.
And I did it all the time. It was, anyways, I probably have lost respect from a lot of people out there, but that's okay.
I will pay so much money to see you running around swinging, dude. We've worked 2 jobs and I never saw you swing anywhere, dude. What?
I know. I know. I don't. The older I've gotten, the more silly, I guess. Hey. I don't care what people think anymore. So now I just want to swing my webs, man.
Dude, I feel that. I mean, the older I get, the weirder I get too. I mean, I honestly. If swinging gets you fucking going, then you swing.
If anyone chimed into this conversation without hearing the context, they would be so confused on what we're talking about right now. If swinging gets you going, dude, just swing.
You know what I mean? I get it. I get it. It sounds like a good time.
It is. There's nothing better, honestly. So that's my number one. How about now we finally get to your number one? I'm what is it, man? Okay, I'm curious.
I'm drumming myself. Can you even hear that?
No. Oh, there we go. Drum roll.
Oh man, I can't go. My fingers can't go that fast. I'm rotating. Okay. My number one is Halo 3.
Dun dun dun. Yeah.
I have to say though, this is a tie, and it is a tie between Halo 3 and Halo 2.
Ooh, yeah.
Halo CE or Halo 1 would be in there, but it just didn't have online, and that's okay because it was before online FPSs existed on console. In fact, For those of you that don't know, Halo 2 was the first console FPS to be online. It launched with Xbox Live, so it was really revolutionary, which is why I had to put it as a tie, because honestly, Halo 2 was just as good, if not better, than Halo 3 in a lot of ways.
Oh man,
oh
I
gosh,
played the shit out of both of those games.
yeah.
Oh man,
I mean, I don't
so
know
good.
what more to say. I mean, Halo 3 really had it all. I mean, Halo 3, oddly enough, had things in that game that don't exist in games nowadays, which is crazy because, like, for instance, the theater mode in that game, you could actually have 4 players in your party, and you could all watch film. And you could
Yep.
watch it, and it was an accurate representation of what was actually happening in game. I don't know how they coded this, because if you notice, like in Call of Duty and in a lot of these other games, when they show a kill cam or when you're watching theater mode, the crosshair and everything is actually off. It doesn't look accurate to what actually happened, because it's not. They can't actually. I don't know the actual like science behind this, but I know that it's really hard to code a theater mode, because to get things to line up is really, really tough. Different hosts, different everything for people. But Halo 3 made it work. It had a theater mode that worked with up to 4 players, never been done since. It had amazing maps: Narrows, Pit, Guardian. I mean, we could go on for days. It introduced Griffball into the world of Halo, which was so popular. Team doubles, Team Slayer, social playlists, competitive playlists. Everything was populated, and I just had some of the best memories of my life playing that game. I went and competed in a lot of tournaments for the Major League Gaming scene, and didn't do that good because I suck. But I did my thing. I went and tried, and the game was really hard. Very, very huge skill gap. Sniping was insanely hard, which is unlike all the other Halo games. And the 4-shot BR was really hard to do. You had to lead your shots, and it was just such a good game all around. I have a special place in my heart for that game, because I think I logged. I'm not kidding you. I mean, I don't even want to know, months and months.
You've
and months
played that
worth of
game
hours.
more than any other game in your entire life.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember in high school. I mean, I remember you were like training before you went to like the MLG stuff. Like,
oh yeah.
And I remember, I remember, and I remember we've talked about this a couple times over the years. But I remember when I jumped on my Xbox 360 and I go online and I'm like, who's online right now? Oh, Nick's online. What's he doing? I join his game. I pop in and there's like 2 or 3 people that you're giving lessons to, and you tell them to shoot the birds and stuff. And I was like, what is going on over here? That was so funny.
Yeah.
Man,
that was
good time.
That was actually crazy. There was a point in time where people actually were paying for lessons in that game and stuff, because I would level accounts sometimes too. I think this is illegal nowadays. I had no idea back in the day. So, don't come after me, please, feds. But I was getting accounts like MLG playlist 50s, and I was getting like, because 50 was the highest level you could achieve. So like, I'd get these accounts to level 50 and like multiple things, then I'd sell them for like $300 or $400. And a lot of the people that would buy the accounts, what would happen is I'd sell them the account, they would go play, and they would lose their 50 instantly. Which, another great thing about video games, like, for some reason, developers are so scared of skill-based rank systems nowadays. They think it's going to turn people off, I think, from playing the game. But
yeah,
I don't know why that's like, been ripped out of so many games, including Call of Duty, since Black Ops 2. But that they would lose their 50, and then they would DM me again and be like, "Can you get me my 50 back?" And I'd be like, "No, it's not part of the deal." And then they'd be like, "Well, can you teach me how to get good, so I could get my 50 back?" And so I would do it. And that's how hardcore I took it. It's kind of silly to think back now, because like, now that I think back to it, like, I knew I wasn't going to be a pro gamer on this, so I'm like, I feel like I wasted a lot of time, but it was so fun that I don't regret it,
Oh yeah, I remember you had a blast doing that. But I think the question that everyone really wants to have the answer to, because to clarify, you claim to be a big fan of Halo, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so my question to you is, what is the order in the kill streaks?
Oh no. Because this changes. This changes from game to game. In Halo 3, double kill, triple kill, overkill, kill-tacular, killtrocity, killpocalypse, Kilimanjaro.
Serious? I didn't even I didn't even know that because I never got that many kills in a row.
I probably just fucked one up, but it changed from game to game. I think it was.
Was it?
Yeah, and then
Wasn't there
Kilimanjaro.
Frenzy in one? Like Kill Frenzy or
Killing
something like
Frenzy is actually not the same. So Killing Frenzy means you got 10 kills in a row without dying, but it doesn't matter how fast they are. So if you get to 5 kills without dying, you get a killing spree. If you get to 10 kills, you get a killing frenzy. And then if you get to 15 kills without dying, you get a running riot. But those are...
Oh, yeah. Running riot.
Running riot. And then if you get like 20 or 25 kills without dying and you don't die throughout the entire game, you get like a perfection, I think is called, or something like that. But there's...
Dang. You did good, though, because you named off the only ones I know. And then you kept going. I didn't even know we kept going. So you passed.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you. It goes all the way to Kilimanjaro, and I probably screwed one of those up or two of those up, but it changed throughout game to game. The only Halo game that I don't know nothing about because it's trash is Halo 4. That game is...
Oh. I remember I got that when it came out, and I was like, this is bad, right? I didn't know. It's almost how I felt when I saw The Last Jedi, and I left the theater, and I was like,
yeah, that
was a bad movie, right? I was very confused. It shouldn't be, but it is. Yeah, I remember that for sure.
Yeah, it was like Halo 4 was created by 343 bought the rights to Halo from Bungie after Reach. But Reach even was Reach was the downward spiral of Halo because Reach was not the same developers. It was they put the head guy of this game called Shadowrun, which was a really popular game before Halo, during Halo 2, I think. But
yeah.
They took that guy and they said, "Here, can you lead another team and make Halo Reach while we kind of transition and start to make Destiny?" So they knew that they were going to be making Destiny, so a lot of their crew went and worked on that, and then they had that new guy come and lead a new team, which is why Halo Reach is so different from other Halos and debatably the first bad Halo. It kind of started to go downhill. Because they had armor lock, jetpack, sprint, all this garbage that it just I'm not saying it doesn't have a place in any game, but it wasn't a part of Halo's formula and it just didn't work. Anyways, so they start transitioning out of Halo, then they sell the rights to it to 343. 343 then they buy Halo and they make Halo 4. And Halo 4, when they made Halo 4, they didn't even have a studio. Yeah. They were a bunch of devs working from their own home studios and sending each other data and stuff. Oh yeah. So there's some weird shit in that game. Like instead of red versus blue, it's sharks versus stingrays. And I know that's not a gameplay aspect, so that shouldn't make a game bad, but the game is just terrible outside of that. It's it doesn't play like a Halo. The BR sounds like a crickets. It's super easy to kill people. The hitboxes are massive. It's all hit scan. It was a disaster.
I could imagine though if you played Halo 1, 2, and 3 and Reach, and even the Reach was considerably the worst up until that point.
Yeah.
Getting into a game where you're a stingray, you're wait a second, this is not something I'm familiar with. Oh man.
I played one day of it. And I was like, man, I just don't like this game. And it made me real sad because it was Halo. And so I just kind of stopped. I think that's when I just...
But you did play Halo 5, though, didn't you? I kind of remember you playing that.
Mm-hmm. Halo 5
was that better than 4? Oh, it was. Oh, okay. Yeah. I never played it because I haven't had an Xbox in years. But
right. And this is all debatable. People are going to disagree with me, and I understand that. This is just
No, they're wrong.
No. Well, I mean, if you're going off numbers and viewership, though, they do back up my statements here. Halo Reach got dropped from Major League Gaming. It got cut from all these sources, and the numbers went, skyrocketing down. And people
skyrocketing down.
Yeah, they were it's when the rocket doesn't properly get into orbit, and then it just fucking shoots straight down.
It doesn't even rocket. It just literally blows up on the landing pad or on the starting pad, whatever you call it.
Yeah, exactly. But Halo 5, it did have sprint and a lot of the abilities that I was talking shit about earlier, but it toned them way down, and it was harder to shoot. The pistol was a fun gun to use. There were some major flaws, there was heavy aim in the game unless you hit the start button over and over again, and there was some, I'd say aesthetically it doesn't look as good as past Halos and stuff like that, but in a lot of ways it was good. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah. I didn't hear anything bad about it, and I didn't really hear anything good about it. Like, it just seemed like it happened and people were pretty happy with it, so it just
Yeah.
didn't get a lot of flack. But there, oh, okay, well, we've done our 5. So those are our top 5 games. I
Yeah.
know that we have a few honorable mentions. And I guess I'll start. And it saddens me if we had a top 10 list, these would be on my like top 10, but because we just did a 5, I will say that my first honorable mention, a very, very, very high honorable mention, is the Resident Evil franchise. I am
Oh,
a huge fan of horror games, and the Resident Evil franchise was massive my entire life. It still
100%.
is.
Oh my god. I love those games. Oh.
They're so good. Even the old ones with the shitty camera angles, I don't care. It made it scarier. I will never forget playing Resident Evil 1, and I'm running down a hallway in the mansion and a door rattles, and I was like, that was weird. Did that door just rattle? And I was like, it couldn't have. What is that? It was a mechanic in the game I hadn't seen yet, and I was like, that's really strange. So, you run down the hall, and as soon as you're about to turn the corner, the camera angle changes, and all of a sudden I hear a like the door just slammed open, and I freaked out, and I start running, and then there's this thing chasing after me, and it was the best day of my life. I love those games so much, and Resident Evil 2 remake was just.
Oh yeah.
Did you play the remake?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh,
Oh my gosh.
perfect.
It's
I mean,
so good. It's perfect, yeah.
yeah.
Literally nothing wrong with that game. I beat it a couple times, and I just loved it so much. And I also wanted to say, as a quick little side note to that too, was, did you ever play Dino Crisis?
Why does that sound familiar? Like why do I know that name?
Dino Crisis came out on PS1. I don't think it came out on PS2. I could be wrong. But Dino Crisis was essentially Resident Evil with dinosaurs.
Oh
And as
wow.
weird as that sounds, it was freaking terrifying, because you could imagine you're like walking around and then a velociraptor's chasing you, and like, oh dude, it was terrifying. And I remember, I just wanted to bring that up because it is so similar to Resident Evil. I wasn't sure if you had heard of it or ever played it, but that was a game I loved when I was a kid. I
Oh
thought it was
wow.
so much fun. Dino Crisis 1 and 2 were fantastic games back in the day, but there was always segments in the game where you couldn't kill it, but you would just be running from a T-Rex.
Oh my god. Dude,
It was amazing.
that sounds amazing, honestly, because like dinosaurs debatably are cooler than zombies to me. Like
They're terrifying.
there's different kinds.
They're
too.
predators.
Yeah,
like,
like
they could mess you up.
oh yeah, dude. Fucking like I can't imagine going through a Resident Evil style map and there being velociraptors. Oh
Oh, dude. Yeah. And do you remember what Jurassic Park was it? Where at the beginning that little girl sees that cute little dinosaur, and then the little dinosaurs end up eating her, and you're like, wait a second, even those things you have to be afraid of, and they were like tiny.
yeah, on
But
the
that
beach,
man,
right?
yeah, on the beach,
Oh,
yeah.
I
And then
remember
the
that.
parents come out and they're like, the fuck, yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyways, dinosaurs are terrifying. Tell me one of your honorable mentions.
Okay, so I guess I'll just kind of like breeze through this one in like 2 seconds, but I had Resident Evil 4 on there because
Oh,
um
very nice.
yeah, to just kind of agree with you and just say like I'm playing through Resident Evil 4 right now on my Switch again because they remastered it,
Oh,
and
nice.
dude, it's
Yeah.
just as good as I remember. You know what's crazy is that it's very hard. The game's challenging.
Yeah, it is challenge. Yeah, I will say, just to add to, because I know we've mentioned a few games now that have been revolutionary, and I think Resident Evil 4 was one of those games that took the world by storm.
Yeah.
Like, that was a huge game and a huge success, and they have re-released it so many times because it's so good. Um, I haven't played it in a minute, but I do know that to this day, if I play that game and I'm in the town, and the motherfucker with the bag on his head and the chainsaw in his hand comes after
Dude,
me, and
yes.
he's cutting down doors and shit. No, I'm not okay with that. That is not okay.
Dude, it's terrifying. It's like playing Horde in Gears of War, but it's harder because like it's like harder to aim. You know, things are like you're running out of ammo
Yeah.
so fast. You gotta grab the herbs and try and
The herbs.
the
Yep.
chainsaw guy, dude. It's so good.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more, dude. I love Resident Evil, and
Man,
oh
that
man,
is just you bringing it up now makes me want to get it for the Switch. I didn't realize they remastered it already on the Switch.
do it. It's
That is
worth it.
amazing. That's so good. Do they I'm sure they do, but do they have the mode? Do you remember that mode where you would try and survive for as long as you possibly could and you could play as like Hank and shit?
I don't actually know yet. I think they have everything, but I just started playing story mode. I didn't look into anything. I just started that shit up. Like I just hopped right in, and I'm not
Nice.
sure yet. I
Dude,
don't know.
even the knife fights.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my god, that game was amazing. I need to play that game again.
And
When you're like,
the merchant, dude,
yeah.
bro.
Wait. Oh, what does he say? Wait, hold on. Don't tell me. Don't tell me. Oh no. Tell me. I
I
can't remember what
forget.
he says
No,
now.
I'm actually
Oh
like
no.
last night I installed it. I downloaded it 2 nights ago, and I just started playing it last night because it took a while to install. And I just got to the part at the very beginning, past the first typewriter where you save at the typewriters. But
Yeah.
I got past the very first typewriter, and I'm in the very first town where there's the first chainsaw guy. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I died 3 times in a row. I got a little bit frustrated, and I realized this is a great game. This is hard, but I want to be more awake because I was playing it in bed when I was going to sleep. So I was like, I
Oh,
wasn't
got
really
you.
like up for the challenge at that moment. But today, actually, probably after this podcast, at some point, I'm going to go play that and like actually concentrate. So I didn't actually even make it to the first merchant yet, but yeah.
I I just had to Google it because I it was in the back of my head and I was like, what does he say? Dude, I'm so excited for you to see him again because that guy's great. He's a lovely guy.
Oh yeah.
But do you remember when you go from the buy screen to the sell screen? He goes, "What you buying?" And
Yeah.
then he goes to the sell screen. "What you selling?" And then he's like, "Not enough cash, stranger." Like he calls you stranger all the time. It's amazing.
Oh yeah.
Oh
Oh yeah.
man,
Yep.
what a great game! That is so good.
So good.
And now I'm gonna get that game now. Thank
Dude,
you.
dude, it's so good. So I had to put that one. I guess the second one, I'll start with the story mode game, and the last two I'll tell after you give you the rest
Yeah.
of yours. But God of War.
That's perfect because that was gonna be my next one. God of War for PS4.
God of War, just a cinematic experience, a great movie.
Yep.
Love the lore behind it. Love the idea
Mhm.
of Greek gods, Thor, the whole thing. I love the antagonist in the whole thing, that he's invincible and he hates his life and he's struggling with his
Yep.
mother who's a fucking witch, and it's just so good. It's great.
That was gonna be my next one. Like I said, God of War is perfect in every way, and you were actually the one that told me, like, dude, you got to play this game. And I always liked God of War, like the franchise on like PS2 and stuff, but it was never. I get really bored of hack and slash games.
Yeah.
I usually will play about halfway through, and then I'm just kind of like, I'm over it. And so I didn't really look into the PS4 God of War. And when you mentioned it, and I looked into it, I was like, whoa, like they've changed everything, like the fighting, like everything, you know.
Yeah.
And it's incredible. That game, I have nothing but good things to say about that game. If there's anyone that's ever like, what game should I play? That's one of the first ones I'll ask. Have you played God of War? Because that game will blow your freaking mind.
Yeah.
It's so good. Even with the kid, like you would think in some games, like the kid is, or like if you have like a companion or whatever, that's a child, they can get kind of like in your way or annoying, but
Oh yeah.
they have it set up so perfectly. So yeah, I definitely agree, and that actually leads into my next one perfectly. Speaking of companions, The Last of Us,
Oh, nice. Nice.
because you have Ellie with you the whole time, and yeah, she's great, but that's another Naughty Dog game, and it is perfect in every way possible. It would honestly be on my list if there was more of the franchise, but because they've only had one game,
Yeah.
and because it is a story mode game that's a bit more on the slower cinematic side, I have played it through a handful of times, but I think when the second one comes out, which I cannot wait for, I think then depending on how that goes, I could start to say this franchise is in my top favorite, because The Last of Us is, and I know you haven't played it, but that is
Yeah.
another franchise, or not franchise yet, but that's another game that is just incredible in every way.
Heck yeah. Need to check that one out too. Gonna check all these games out eventually. You know how I play games. I play games so slow. It's like I'm so weird. It takes me so long to beat a story mode game. Like it took me 7 months to beat God of War. Like I would
Well, because you will play games a lot, and then you'll just put it off for a long time. Because
yeah
I remember I started God of War after you had already started it, and then I beat it, and you were still at like this part in like the snow area that I had left like a long time ago, and I was just assuming you kept playing. But I think you either got busy or you started playing something else.
yeah.
But yeah, so
I
that's
think
okay though.
I think that's kind of why I love Breath of the Wild so much, and kind of like Fallout, Skyrim, all these games. Like I think the story mode. I think you just made me realize something about myself. I think the story mode games that I like, I need to be able to get distracted and to just go off at any point and do other stuff. Because what happens is,
Oh, like you're not tied down to the story of it. Like you can go and
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, essentially.
Yeah.
Because that's what happened with God of War. I loved it. It was so good, but I got kind of bored. I was kind of like, I
Mm,
want to go do something else for a minute. And I took
yeah.
a large break, and I came back, and I enjoyed it just as much as I had previously. But I think it's my attention span. It's weird.
Mm. I have the same issue now, but it's the opposite where I have a harder time having my focus stay on the open world games
Mm.
now. Um, I just get overwhelmed and I get distracted too quickly. And my fear is that when I start doing something that's not on the main story, I get completely lost in what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And then if I set it down for longer than a week, I'm like, I don't even know what I was doing. And
Yeah.
now it's almost warranted just to start over at that point because I'm just so confused.
Yeah.
But I think with what you said though, it makes sense because the game, it's not, it's definitely like linear to a certain degree. It's not necessarily just because you can run off and do stuff, but it's not open world by any means. But it's like just big enough that you can still get kind of lost in it if you
Right.
want. So
Yeah.
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 Um.
Yeah.
So wait, did you just say
Uh, I
wh-
I think
who
it's
went last?
you just went with The Last of Us, I believe, right?
Oh, that's right. That's right. Sorry. Yeah, you go now.
Yeah. Okay. So the last two are gonna be like esports competitive multiplayer titles for me. And this one is one that I actually haven't logged the hours into because I didn't have a really good PC until last year, the beginning of last year. But um, it's Counter-Strike Go. Um,
Oh,
I love. It's probably my favorite shooter I've ever played. Um, as far as just balance, guns,
yeah.
everything goes. Like, I think it's my favorite that I've ever played. It feels perfect. The only problem that I have with it is not only as I'm starting it late, but it also has a really bad problem with cheaters, with
I
hackers.
was gonna say,
Yeah.
yeah,
And Valve
yeah.
just kind of doesn't give a shit. And that makes me kind of sad because I would log so many hours into CS:GO if it weren't for the damn cheaters. Even in ESEA, there's like external, platforms that you can play through that are supposed to have better anti-cheat, and it still doesn't work. You still get cheated.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but
That is disappointing, but there
yeah,
that's a that's one of those examples of something that if it works, don't change it. And
yeah,
they've more or less had the same formula for the last 20 plus years for
yeah,
that game. Yeah.
literally, it's the same thing as 1.6. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
they actually tried to change it. They went to Counter Strike Source for a handful of years, and then it just didn't work. The community hated it, which is kind of what happened with Halo, but they just never went back in Halo. Actually,
Right.
I mean, they're literally going back and playing Halo 3 right now. I mean, this last year they had a circuit of tournaments fully funded by Microsoft or 343 for Halo 3 in 2019.
What does that tell you? It's like, hold on a second. This game came out in 2000, what, 7?
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah. So, anyways, Counter Strike. I mean, I love it. The gun spray patterns are predictable. They're not RNG. Guns are balanced. It's very, very hard, and there's a huge skill
Yeah.
gap in the game. And it's balanced, and I just love it. I love that game. So there's not a whole lot to say about it, but that's one of my favorites.
Yeah. No, that's a great mention for sure. It's a game that's been around my entire life that I have played, but I never logged in that many hours. But I think it was because I never put in the time to get good at it because it does require like actual skill.
Yeah.
Like you can't just jump in and just Call of Duty your way through it. But
Right. Right.
I was gonna say that I think for me, because another honorable mention that I'll just kind of skip over because it was something we spoke about earlier, but Black Ops 2 was
Oh,
another
yeah.
honorable mention.
Oh.
I put in a lot of hours into that game, and like we were saying with zombies, it's the best Call of Duty game I've ever played. It is perfect all the way through.
Oh yeah.
But I guess for my last honorable mention, would be Final Fantasy 7 and 10, which for any Final Fantasy fans out there, they're probably thinking like poser, because those are like the two Final Fantasy games that that if you don't really play the franchise, that you may have played and enjoyed, because they're, I guess, more on like the mainstream side of things maybe. But Final Fantasy 7, incredible. I don't know how I feel about this new one coming out, because I've heard they're going to do it like episodic and all this stuff, and I truthfully love the older fighting mechanic that they had, where you take turns, and how it's more like you're trying to plan out what you're going to do and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And 10 was similar to that too. It had more or less the same style. But yeah, I wanted to at least mention those, because I did log a lot of hours into those games, and sadly they're games I can't really do anymore, because it is a lot of grinding and stuff that I don't have the attention span for anymore.
Yeah.
But I will say, like, I have to give credit where it's due, and those two games were incredible. So that was my last
Heck
honorable
yeah.
mention.
That's amazing. That's a hell of a way to wrap it up. Final Fantasy 7. I'll just end it with something that's probably pretty controversial.
Uh-oh.
Sorry. League of Legends.
Oh,
Yeah,
a game I've literally never played. Somehow,
Yeah.
I don't know how. But yeah,
I mean, maybe it's not controversial because it is undisputedly the largest esport for the last over the last decade. It's
yeah.
I mean, Imagine Dragons have played for the halftime show. I mean, it's
What?
yeah, oh yeah, you didn't know that?
No.
Oh yeah,
Oh my
they've been selling
gosh.
out Staples centers, and I mean, it's not even close. I mean, I'm pretty sure League of Legends pulls more numbers than like the NFL does, which is
Jeez.
absolutely crazy. Don't quote me on that. That's what I heard from somebody, so I don't know if that's true or not. But the numbers are astronomically high. People eat it up, and in South
Yeah.
Korea, the culture pretty much accepts it as like their sport. Like in America, we have like the NBA, the NFL. In Korea, they have like League of Legends, and like they're like people running for office and stuff actually use like video games and like internet culture. Esports is like as like a way to gain voters and stuff. It's like really popular over there. So it's
Wow.
yeah, it's really big and it's massive, but there's also a lot of hate because it's literally a game that had one mode for so many years. With they just expand on the characters, one map, one mode. It's just really balanced and it works, but the way that
Yeah.
they've expanded on the game and the characters they've added are so deep that they're now doing comics and yeah, another Riot's just kind of exploding. They're actually working on right now. Fun fact, I tweeted about it yesterday, but they're working on something that they're calling Project A right now, and it's this is some super top secret intel. But
Oh,
they
wow.
actually have tweeted about it, but it's like it's really unknown right now. But they have this thing called Project A where they're making an FPS. Riot Games, fun. They've only developed League of Legends.
Oh, yes. I think you might have mentioned this to me at one point. But yeah,
Yeah. So
it sounds familiar. Sorry.
no, it's fine. Yeah, no, they're developing an FPS, and it's going to be like Counter-Strike, where you can kill with one headshot. TTK can be low, but it's going to be very hard to do. And they're going to have like characters in the game and lore similar to Rainbow Six and Overwatch. So they're pretty much coming into the FPS market with their second major release. They just released their second game called Legends of Runeterra. It's a card game, and it's rivaling Hearthstone now. But now they have this game that they haven't released a name for called Project A. It's going to be coming out this year, so really hyped for that. Love League of Legends, stoked for the comics, and just, yeah, that's how I'm closing mine out.
Dang. Yeah, I don't know how I've never played that game, but everyone I know has played it, and there's a reason why it's so popular. Obviously, Imagine Dragons wants to. That's crazy. Well, I don't know where we're at on the time for this, but this has been fun. This has been cool going over everything, all of our favorite games, and I don't know if it was mentioned in the beginning, but our schedule now is actually every Wednesday.
Oh no, I dropped the ball.
Know if I can't remember now. Honestly, did you drop the ball?
I dropped the ball. I was supposed to tell you all that we have episodes coming out every Wednesday. No, I had one job. I'm so sorry.
You had one. No, we could always pin a comment. And for anyone that's actually made it this far into the podcast, congratulations. That's amazing.
You are the winner.
You are the winner. I don't have a prize, but yeah. of nothing. But yeah, so we're going to be doing every Wednesday, and we are well, we've also more or less scheduled out the year, which is really exciting. Um, we haven't scheduled out our guests per se, but we are in the works of getting guests sorted and whatnot. So we're really excited about that. Um, and yeah, and we'll be announcing our first guest here fairly soon. I don't know when, but it will be soon. We're planning on our 5th episode, hopefully, to be our first feature. So we'll let you guys know about that. But yeah, I guess that's it. I guess that's the end.
We're wrapping
We've
it up.
made it.
All right.
Wrapping it up.
The top
all right,
5
dude.
video games of all time, Divide Music and Fable. You heard it here first. Thank you guys so much for listening. And yeah, I really appreciate you guys who did make it all the way to the end. You guys are the real ones. We appreciate you so much. And yeah, do you have anything else you want to say?
No. I'm hungry.
I'm kind of hungry too. Actually, I'm not hungry. I could eat.
Really?
Well, I need to
I'm
work
hungry.
out. That's what I need to do.
I'm 6'7", so I eat a lot. Anyways, that's not relevant anymore. All right, guys, it has been fun. We'll see you guys next Wednesday with a new episode, which I can actually tell you right now. This is actually kind of the fun part about scheduling these things, is we can let them know what we're going to be talking about. But our next episode is going to be top 5 artists. So that will be really, really interesting. So yeah, come back for that, and that'll be next Wednesday.
Yep. See you there. Peace out, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.